All right, everybody, welcome to the lesson number 1 video for our new chapter, chapter 7, on extending to 3 dimensions. So in this first lesson, we're actually just doing like a quick review of some of the things that we learned about area and perimeter from middle school and from Algebra 1. So let's take a look at this first question. So it talks about a chicken coop, and it wants us to figure out how much it's going to cost to enclose the entire chicken coop. So that's telling us we want to know the perimeter. So we want to know all of the sides of this shape. So I know a couple of them already. So I know this one side is 7, this one side is 15, this one side is 12. But I don't know these little pieces here. So I don't know this piece, and I don't know this piece. Now to find this first piece here, which I'm going to call x, x is going to be the distance that's different from 12 and 7. So x is going to be 12 minus 7. You don't need to even show this step. I'm going to just so you have it. So I know x is 5. Y, if you look, is part of the piece that's the same distance as 15. But part of 15 is also this 5 down here. So if I take out the 5, I can say that y is equal to 15 minus 5, which is 10. So now I know all of the different parts of this perimeter. So the perimeter of this shape is going to come out to be P equals 7 plus 15 plus 12 plus 5 plus the 2 parts that we found, the other 5 and the 10. So if I go through and add all that up, I have 20, 32, 47, and 54 feet. So we've done the first part here. The next part is going to require us to figure out how much it costs per foot to fence in this whole area. So the cost is going to be your 54 feet times $2.50 per foot. So the total cost is going to be whatever that comes out to be. So let's just use our calculator here. So we have 54 times 250. Which gives us $135. Hopefully that was a nice, easy question for you. Number 2 is kind of tough. Number 2 kind of mixes together 2 different questions that we did in class. So the first thing I want to do for number 2 is I want to look at one of these triangles. So if I make a triangle here, I know this BO side is also 10, but I see this as an octagon. So to find the interior angle of an octagon, I'm going to do 360 divided by 8 since there's 8 sides, which gives me 45 degrees. So this angle in here is 45. Now if I just look at that one triangle, so let's just draw a bigger version of that one triangle here. So I have one isosceles triangle. This is 45, this is 10, and this is 10. I can't figure out AB, but I can cut this triangle in half since it's isosceles, and I can figure out what half of AB is, because this is going to become a right triangle. I know since it's isosceles, the angle is going to get cut in half, so it's going to become, oops, it's going to become 22.5. So if I redrew the right triangle only, that's a terrible triangle. Let's try that again. So if I redraw just the right triangle, I have a 10, I have an X, which represents half of the side AB, and 22.5 degrees. Well, if that 22.5 degrees is my angle, this is opposite, it's my right angle, so this is hypotenuse. So I'm going to use sine to be able to find X. So I can say the sine of 22.5 is equal to x over 10. I then can multiply both sides by 10. So I have x equals 10 sine of 22.5 degrees. And that's going to allow me to find half of one of the sides, because that's what x represents. So if I type that into my calculator here, so my calculator, so we'll do 10 sine of 22.5. That comes out to be the length of half of a side. So if I multiply that by 2, I know the length of one side. So if I go back here to my notes, I know that the sine was, we'll say 3.827. So we'll say 3.827. That's the length of half of a side. So we can say one side is 2 times that 3.827. So one side came out to be 7.654. Notice I'm rounding up past what it asks me to because that's not my final answer yet. So I want to make sure I didn't lose anything by rounding. So now that I know one of the sides, I can find the perimeter by taking one side and multiplying it by 8. So if I take that one side that I found, that's 7.65, and multiply it by 8, notice even in the calculator I'm not rounding. I get 61.2 for my perimeter. Now they want us to round this to the nearest tenth. So the perimeter on paper, I'll write down that I'm multiplying that 7.65 times 8. So we'll say the perimeter is equal to 8 times one side, 7.654. So the perimeter comes out to be whatever the calculator told us when I multiplied it, 61.2. Like I said, this is a great question. It's proving that you understand two different things that we did in class, right? Do you understand how to find the angle to set up the triangle from the polygon? Do you understand that there's a isosceles triangle that you can cut in half? That's what we did here, right? Do you know how to use trig? This is like a really good part 3 or part 4 question. The last problem we're doing talks about painting. So it says you're painting a room that's 18 feet long by 14 feet wide and 8 feet high. Find the area of the 4 walls that you're going to paint. So this is a 3-dimensional figure, but we're just talking about the walls. So in a room, there are going to be 4 walls, right? So if we talk about a 3-dimensional figure, so here is your room. So we have a 3-dimensional figure here. So here's our room. It's saying to just paint the walls. We don't have to paint the ceiling or the floor. So there are going to be 4 walls, 2 of which are going to be the same. So the front wall is going to have a length of 18 feet along the floor and a height of 8 feet. So I have 2 walls that are 8 by 18. I also have 2 walls that are going to be 14 by 8, because those are going to be the side walls that deal with the other dimension of the floor. Since they're rectangles, the area formula for a rectangle is length times width. So the area of one of the walls is 8 times 18. So if we go to our calculator and go 8 times 18, whoops, forgot the time button. I know one wall is 144. But remember, there's 2 of those. The other area is going to become 8 times 14. So if we do 8 times 14, the other wall is 112. And remember, there are 2 of them. So in total, the total paintable area, right? So you need to paint 2 times 144 plus 2 times 112. Because there's 2 of each of those types of walls. So again, if we figure out the area here, so we have 2 times 144 plus 2 times 112. I have to paint 514 square feet of wall. All right, it's 512 was? Yeah, 512. So let's keep reading the problem. So it says, each gallon of paint costs $6.50. That's a really cheap gallon of paint, by the way. And each gallon of paint covers 128 square feet of wall. Well, I have 512 square feet of wall. So to figure out how many gallons, I have to figure out, well, if I have 512 square feet, and each one covers 128 square feet, whatever this decimal comes out to be is going to help me determine how many gallons of paint to buy. So if I do 512 divided by 128, I get 4 gallons of paint. Now, if that came out to be a decimal, luckily for us it didn't, but say it came out to be 4.2 gallons of paint, 4 gallons of paint wouldn't be enough to cover it, so I would have to buy 5 gallons of paint. So we have to do some thinking sometimes with some of these questions. So I need to buy 4 gallons of paint, and it says each gallon of paint $6.50, so my total cost is going to be 4 times $6.50, which comes out to be $26. That's a 6. Hopefully this video helped you do your homework or helped you check your homework. As you're going through and trying these questions, make sure you're trying them first. Don't just watch the video just to see what the answers are. That's not really helping you too much. All right, so keep up with the work here for this quarter. This unit should not be that hard. A lot of it should be familiar to you from what you did in middle school. All right, but if you are struggling, come and see me. Have a good night.